The G7 has pledged about 1 billion doses of vaccines to the world's poorest people. But given that 98% of Africans have not been vaccinated, is that too little of a pledge too late?
Well, it is a pledge, and we must accept it for what it is. Clearly, we need more, but it's a good start to have up to 1 billion vaccines being pledged. And we've been telling them about the enormity of the challenge. And I think it's dawning on the G7 countries and a number of other institutions that in the end, we're not safe. They are not safe until we are all safe. And to do so, we've got to do much more than what they have promised to do. There should be a waiver of the TRIPS measure to allow the manufacturing of vaccines to take place in various other parts of the world.
But you can't blame the G7 for the slow rollout of vaccines in South Africa. I mean, you were in a good position early on. You had trials of vaccines. You could have struck deals with manufacturers earlier, and you didn't do it. And it seems like you're not going to meet your target of vaccinating, I think it's 67% of South Africans by the end of this year.
Well, when it comes to vaccine rollout, I think we've done as best as we could, because the other challenge, of course, has been availability of the vaccines themselves. We started off with AstraZeneca, which is a partnership with Oxford University and the entity in India. And as we thought we were now on track, it was not good for our variant. And we've now we resorted to Johnson & Johnson. I even went to the factory in South Africa which makes those. And as we thought we are now up and going, the FDA in the United States put a stoppage on all distribution of Johnson & Johnson. And now we are on to Pfizer. And Pfizer has started streaming in, yes, regularly on a weekly basis.
And you're hoping that Pfizer becomes part of this G7 pledge, do you, of more vaccines coming to South Africa amongst other countries?
Well, we certainly hope so. I just had a meeting with President Biden, and he has promised that the huge batch of vaccines that they are going to donate, which will largely be Pfizer, will also be made available to our own country and a number of other countries on the continent.
And you must have said, well, when? I mean, you need this stuff now.
Well, he wrote me a note and said, yes, we're going to make them available soon, because he needed to talk to his own people. And we are hoping that it will be sooner than soon, because they are desperately needed now. I mean, in South Africa, we are already going into our third wave, and we're facing more and more infections and deaths. And the only shield and defense that we all have is vaccines. And so therefore we need them desperately, not tomorrow, not today, but yesterday.
But President Ramaphosa, what about your own health minister, who you've had to put on so-called special leave after he was implicated in allegations of corruption involving COVID-related contracts? Are you prepared to sack your health minister if the evidence comes through and it's damned?
Well, as it is now, the investigation is on, and we're waiting for the investigation to reach its own fruition, and we'll then be able to take a decision. So I will then, and I've said it very clearly to the nation, that I will then, as I'm dealing with the matter, be able to take a decision. For now, I don't want to be preempted, because I've put him on special leave, and I am busy with the matter on an ongoing basis, and in a few days, by the end of the month or so, we should get the report, and then we'll be able to deal with the matter.
The reason I ask, of course, is that why should the G7 invest in healthcare schemes in South Africa, and indeed any other kind of scheme, when the country is so tragically associated with so much corruption and what is known as state capture?
Well, the G7 country leaders know what we are doing. They know that one of our key priorities as a country is to fight corruption and to ensure that there is zero corruption.
But they're worried that
in
you're
what-
not winning.
But we are winning. I mean, we've instituted a commission of inquiry that is unraveling all the wrong things that were done in the past with a view of making sure that they never happen again. The determination that G7 leaders and even the G20 and many others are seeing in our resolve, they are actually saying, we believe in you, we have confidence in you, and we believe as a country you are going to be able to solve this problem.
I
So
suppose
we
the
are.
question is whether your fellow South Africans share that confidence in you. I mean, they want to believe in you, they want to believe you're the new broom for South Africa, but it's not looking good this far, is it?
Oh no, it is. It is actually looking pretty good because the party that I lead has actually opened its own chest and said, we have made mistakes in the past, but we want to correct all those mistakes we've made.
And are
At
there
our
other members of
conference-
your party that you've charged with corruption and put on trial?
Oh yeah, there are quite a number who've either been, who stepped aside, as we call it in South Africa, and some who've been charged. And at the conference where I was elected the leader of the party, the key message that went out and the ticket that I was elected on was to fight corruption. And since then, the party, the African National Congress, has been winning a lot of local government by-elections, demonstrating that the public can see what we're doing. They still have confidence in our ability to strengthen the capacity of the state and to fight corruption.
What we've witnessed at the G7 is an attempt to stop or to counter Chinese investment in the world's developing countries by creating a sort of global infrastructure fund. It must be very tempting for you, though, to take investment finance from the Chinese because they won't ask the same questions that the G7 ask and that I've asked about corruption.
Yeah, but you see, our approach is that we need a world that is open, that is fully multilateral, where we are able to cooperate with those that will advance our interests. We don't believe in having exclusive relationships that exclude others.
But if Chinese finance for building a new road in South Africa is cheaper than finance from a G7 country, and the Chinese ask fewer questions, aren't you just going to take the Chinese money?
Well, we don't believe that the one is better than the other. We believe that what we can get on offer is what we should deal with, and we don't believe that anyone should choose who our partners are.
I wanted to ask you about climate change because we're seeing big pledges here on climate finance from the G7, but you must be suspicious of those pledges because in previous years the G7 simply hasn't met the commitments it made to provide climate finance so a country like yours can move away from fossil fuels. Do you take these pledges seriously?
Well, I would like to take them seriously now, and it is true that the bigger and more advanced economy countries have not met the pledges that they've made in the past. And we, in the more developing economy countries, are not nearly even responsible for the damage that has been done by fossil fuel emissions in the world. And in Africa, we are even least responsible.
But you have a lot of coal-fired power stations.
No, we do, and we are making our own commitments that we are going to reduce fossil fuel emissions, and that is a commitment that we are making seriously, and we're taking measures within our own realm, in our own country.
You're the only African leader at this summit. Do you ask yourself, why on earth am I here? I mean, do you feel a bit token, to be honest? I mean, why did they invite you?
No, I am the only African leader, and it really depends on the host. In previous summits, the African Union itself has been invited. It is a bit unnerving. We would have preferred to have the African Union, which I used to be the chair of last year, to have been here as well, to speak on behalf of the 1.2 billion people.
We're hearing a lot about so-called Build Back Better, but you must be asking yourself, how can any of these rich democracies really give South Africa or anybody else any money when they're so preoccupied with their own economic problems and recovering from the COVID pandemic?
Well, yes, I mean, the slogan is Build Back Better, but we're also saying, as you build back better, just remember that others are not even at that level. They are drowning in debt, they are drowning in low economic growth, and so therefore, building back better must mean that we all lift all the boats in the world, and now they have access to huge financing resources than your least developed economic countries. And we are saying, for instance, when it comes to the funding that they have available at the international funding institutions like the IMF, the SDRs as they are called, they have up to $650 billion available to them. And we are saying that should also be made available to developing economy countries. And they had proposed 33 billion, that we should have 33 billion accessible to us. We say no, we want a much bigger slice of that 650 billion. We want 162 billion, because if we have that for the African continent, we will then be able to build back a lot better, because we're starting from a low base.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, thank you very, very much for talking to me.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.